Before we get into that, I just want to thank our lead sponsor, Hargrave Fiber. They're a company that handles fiber optics and technology for small businesses as well as enterprise-sized businesses throughout the Southeast. They're here in Peachtree Corners, working with the city, working with Curiosity Lab, and also providing business services, to legacy large businesses and small ones that need the technical expertise in internet speeds. So different from the cable guy, they are involved in the community and they're right there to help you. So check them out, hargravefiber.com or hargrave.com/business. And on to the show. So let me bring in Brian. Hey, Brian. Thanks for joining me today. Appreciate that.
Guy, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we have a bit to talk about. We do this every month, so I'm always glad that you're able to provide answers and, insight into things that's going on in the city and what the city is doing. Because God knows there's always, between my postings on Facebook, other people next door, there's always a place for good sanity, if there's is such a thing as good sanity, to prevail and information to be out there. So.
Well, I'm honored that you put me in that category. So,
yes, we are sane people on this show. So, it's fine. Not to say there's insanity out there, but God knows. I do want to congratulate you, though, on accepting or being presented by Jim Stone, head of Titan Pictures, the Telly Gold Award, which is an award that honors the excellence in video and television across all screens. This was for the Curiosity Lab video that was created that actually won, if I understand correctly from you, won an Oscar, right?
An Emmy.
An Emmy.
An Emmy.
Actually. An Emmy Award for cinematography, was it?
Yep.
Cool. So why don't you show us that award? Tell us a little bit about that. That would be kind of cool.
Well, here's one of two.
Right.
And it does kind of look like an Oscar. I mean, it probably weighs 3-4 pounds. It's actually pretty heavy. They didn't mess around with this thing, but this was, if anybody has not seen, you can get on CuriosityLabPTC.com, and on the homepage is a video that we made about a year and a half ago in preparation for both our grand opening. But specifically, I had a keynote speech at the Smart City World Expo in Barcelona, Spain last November. In fact, exactly 1 year ago right now. That conference is going on virtually right now. But last year I was asked to speak there, and the opening, or actually really I closed the presentation about Curiosity Lab with this video, and we wanted to have something to depict what was going to be happening here and what it looked like in real life, because you can try to describe something all you want, but if you don't have something to show, people's imagination can. And so that video was done by a company called Titan Pictures. The owner is Jim Stone, and he brought in some really good people, and ultimately, we made the video, and then we submitted it for some awards, and we got 2 Tellys and 1 Emmy for people who were working on that project. So that video in Peachtree Corners will be forever memorialized in motion picture lore as being a recipient of 3 awards associated with a video that it produced.
Yeah, that is just phenomenal. That I would never have thought. And that was a great video too. I mean, it was just production value, just the storyline of it. Everything was really good about it. So I'm not surprised that it actually won an award like that. I just never thought it would be out there that way. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
To have that.
Yeah.
So, there's other things going on in the city too. We keep, talking about some of the biggest things, obviously, Curiosity Lab, the bridge and all that. In fact, the bridge just opened, ribbon cutting just recently. So now people can actually use that bridge, cross it. When events are going on, they don't have to cross from the corners. We were talking a little bit before we started taping about traffic light and actually street lights, actually lighting up the area to make it safer on those intersections. But obviously having the bridge there is even easier, being able to cross that. So glad to have that. Does that feel like a weight off your shoulders?
Well, it's certainly, yes, it feels good. I mean, that's been a long saga to get to the point where we are right now with the bridge. And, you got to give mayor and council a lot of credit. One, they recognized both a need and an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
We have our city is, essentially bifurcated by this river of cars, and it is difficult to cross. And we wanted to link up two sides of the city, specifically now that the town center is done, two prominent shopping and entertainment districts, and do so that people can cross safely, do so
Right.
that in a way that extends our multi-use trail system, do so in a way that allows cars to pass, underneath, in this case, without having to stop because of pedestrians.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of benefits to putting it there. And, the byproduct also was, we have a structure that can be referenced like you would any other landmark thing now. And so,
Right.
we put a lot of time in it. As some of the beginnings of this predate even my tenure here. I actually hit the 4-year mark here tomorrow. I will have been
Wow.
here 4 years tomorrow.
Congratulations. That's a long time.
Yeah, well, it exceeds, I think, the national average for city managers' tenure is 3.5 years right now.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, between voluntary separation, retirement,
Right.
and when you work at the pleasure of an elected body, it can be a volatile position.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, sure, you get political changes and stuff going on. People want to
Yeah.
change up what's going on, but you guys, the city council, everyone, the mayor, you,
I mean, they
I mean,
stuck with it. That
yeah,
they threw that out there, and there was a lot of detractors for it. There were people who didn't think that, or still don't think that Peachtree Corners should be a city, and so they're just not
sure,
wanting there to be anything the city's doing. There were some that thought that it shouldn't be a bridge; it should be a tunnel. There are some that thought it should be at a different location,
right,
maybe on 141, and then there are some that just didn't like the design, despite the fact that it is a bridge that took inspiration
mm-hmm,
from an actual bridge that existed here, Jones Bridge itself.
right,
But anyway, to mayor and council's credit, they stayed the course. They were steady. They, at certain times, heard the community and made adjustments. In some cases, significant adjustments based on
oh,
community input. The
sure,
result is the bridge that we have, which is a great value for how it looks. And at night, especially this last Tuesday night, council flipped on the lights for the first time. And if you see it at night, and in person, it's even better than that view. But it is
yeah,
really
yeah,
something that we should all be proud of. And my staff, led by Greg Ramsey, our director of public works and engineering, did a phenomenal job of working through lots of little things that are a challenge. I mean, that design is not a cookie cutter design. So anytime you create
right.
a design kind of that's not been done before, there's always challenges. And so, yeah, we're pretty proud of it.
You know, and George Ramsay is actually helping us for the next issue. We're putting together an article about the bridge and everything that transpired on it to a degree and stuff. So it'll be an interesting article to have in the next issue of the magazine. And I appreciate George participating with that, helping us get that together. So yeah, it's the with things like this, with any structure like this, we were talking again before the taping of this, that there's always things that we worry about, right? Graffiti and stuff like that. But there are live video cameras on the bridge now, so the city will actually be able to catch any perpetrators to a degree, at least on camera, if not you know
I would love to think that we're never going to have to worry about that. That it's
Yes.
people are going to respect it and value it. But you and I both know that at some point in the future, there will be some knucklehead who doesn't. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, the bridge is under video surveillance. So for those who might be, in the viewing audience, those might, that might be, you know, putting together their bag of spray paint, maybe you should
Right.
not
Right.
be there because, yeah, we got to protect our asset. And really, it's not just that; is we also want people to be up there. It is very well lit,
Uh-huh.
so when you are up there, it is not dark at all. I mean, the whole structure is, but we also, it's not just graffiti. We want people to be up there and feel like they can,
Yeah.
be safe and enjoy
Yeah.
it. This morning when I came to work, it was about 5:45. There
Mm-hmm.
was a small group of people on the top landing on the town center side that were stretching, doing some sort of calisthenics on that landing atop right on the bridge. Yeah. I
Huh.
was like, okay. I mean, that's what I'm
It's
talking
being
about.
used.
Yeah. And for
Yeah.
those who are, for those who may not be able to use the stairs, the bridge is accessible via elevators.
Right. Right. So you could actually get your bikes on those elevators, bring them up, and
Yep.
then
If you
cross if
wanted
you
to
want.
bring your bike, you could
Yeah.
take your bike up
Sure.
across.
Sure. So glad to have that done. Glad to have that up, and I'm sure come the summer months, if things wind down a little better with COVID, then that's going to be a useful bridge. There's going to be a lot of things going on, and it's going to be a very busy mecca right there between the two shopping centers and that crossover. So looking forward to that, especially
We
during
certainly hope so. I mean,
yeah
those are great amenities out there for all of us that live in Peachtree Corners.
yeah. So talking about COVID-19, I've been, like everyone else, working from home. A lot of people are doing that still, even, and some people are coming back to working from home because every once in a while I hear, oh, we went back to work, but then we closed the place for 2 weeks because someone had COVID. Um, so, it almost makes sense to just to be working at home. It seems. It just depends on your job, though, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a restaurant, and that's a whole different story. But I noticed I've been keeping track of the COVID charts from the counties, the infections and the case rates, and they're actually going up here in 30092 and some of the other zip codes, the smaller zip codes of the city, but certainly the largest one is 30092. And even the case rate, I think the last 2 weeks had went up 64% at this point. The week before that was only up about 14.5%. So it's trending the wrong way at this point, but for our zip code. Um, so, I know the city is keeping, track of things and, staying in touch with the state and the health officials to see what might or might not need to be done. Do you see any other impact on business or locally that you can share?
Well, I mean, it certainly had a significant impact on really all commerce of all sorts. I don't know in this case that it, as opposed to the first time where the pandemic first hit and we had the big surge, I guess last spring, you know early summer time period.
Right.
We were all kind of like learning this new thing, didn't know how long. This time, there's a lot of people. You kind of brought up yourself already. You're already kind of postured to do things remotely like you weren't prepared to do before. So I don't think it will impact companies as much from a surprise standpoint. Like we don't know how to deal with this. Our
Right.
worry is maybe there are some companies that were hanging on for dear life. They were making it day to day, but they were fighting to live for another day. And if we have another spike and another shelter in place kind of component, that they can't do it. They were on the edge as it was, and now they're not. That's part of the reason why we have our small business incentive, or excuse me, small business assistance grant program
Mm-hmm.
currently. We
Right.
are going to be it's about $2.5 million is going out to around 200-ish small businesses in the city that submitted for, pandemic related, for reimbursement of pandemic related expenses that they can validate that they incurred, including loss of revenue.
Okay.
And so, that's part of the program of us trying to help those small businesses that don't have a lot of, buffer. They don't have a lot of savings. They're running a lean operation anyway, and we want them to stay around as much as we can because our local economy is very important to a city, maybe more so in our municipality than others because we don't supplement our revenue with property tax. So our sales tax revenue is very important here.
Yeah. Yeah. All the business license fees and all that as well. So healthy businesses and good sales, busy city makes a lot of sense for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in being a publisher of a magazine and talking to advertisers and other businesses out there and stuff, they are worried. Some of them are worried that, not understanding, why is business not as up. Of course, certain businesses more than others are feeling a bit of an impact. Service type businesses, personal service care, for example, maybe salons and things like that might feel a little bit more. Some of the restaurants, some of them are really doing well. You can't tell that there's something going on. And some of them are just, working through it, I think. So yeah, it's a bit different, and we're moving into the new year in a few months, and hopefully with the vaccine, and we'll see how that goes. If things can move along there. We were talking about security cameras. That's a whole big thing that came out this past week or so. Probably one of the most visited pages on our website. That and the COVID-19 rates that I put up just last week. Yeah. So and when I share it on Facebook or Instagram, get lots of posts about these things. So the security cameras are plate recognition cameras. We've discussed this before. The idea is hopefully by the end of the year they'll all be up. Is that's what we talked about before?
That's correct. So you're referring to what are called LPR or license plate recognition cameras. Now, these are cameras that take a still photo of an object that comes into its view corridor. It's within its view scope. Mm-hmm. And the unique part of that, beyond a shape, and it's usually the shape about the size of a dog or bigger. So if a person walks into the view of this camera, it will also take a still photo when that person comes into the view of the camera too. Right. But it also has the capabilities on a vehicle. If the photo is taken of the rear of the vehicle, if it's oriented that way, that it can recognize alphanumerics, letters and numbers. And when it recognizes and reads the letters and numbers, it then scrubs it against a database that is updated every day from the criminal database.
Right.
Excuse me. And it is scrubbed against that database, and that database has license plate numbers of vehicles registered to somebody that may be of interest to law enforcement. So that vehicle could be a vehicle of interest in the commission of a crime. It could be a reported stolen. It could be the vehicle that an Amber Alert is associated with. And it could be serious ones like that. It could be less serious, like expired insurance or tags. But all of it is in a database. And that database, when the camera takes a photo of the license plate, and it scrubs it against that database, if that license plate number comes up hot, there's a be on the lookout, a BOLO for that license plate, Gwinnett County gets an automatic message saying that vehicle, X with this license plate came up at this location, headed in this direction. And if it's something like, maybe expired tags, Gwinnett PD do anything. It's, they don't have resources. It is what it is. What
Right.
they can
Right.
do is they can um, change the settings such that they can have serious crimes come up if it's associated with that license plate. So, for instance, a vehicle that's associated with an Amber Alert, if that vehicle came up somewhere, the license plate did, they would dispatch officers real time
Mm-hmm.
to a point where they might be able to apprehend the vehicle. So it has helped in real time. It has also helped in investigating and solving crimes, including murders, where Gwinnett PD can go back and they can, using the system of cameras, and Gwinnett PD has about access to about 1 million cameras that they actually
And
have been given permission to access for law enforcement purposes. They can go back and they can trace where a vehicle that is being, is of interest to them, where it has been over certain
that's a,
points. They can use
that's a,
that to help.
and that's 1 million cameras in Gwinnett County.
Not in Metro Atlanta. They have access to
Okay.
Metro Atlanta.
I was gonna say, wow.
About 1 million, but and so there's a lot of sharing between counties and everything.
Okay.
Now, a lot of them, I will say, probably most of them are actually subdivision or HOA cameras, in which
Yeah.
they give the police the ability to access the camera, so that if there's something happened in the neighborhood, they can go back and pull the the data. So anyway, that's kind of how they work. And the reason that mayor and council approve these is because, as you know, we do not have our own police department. We don't fund our own police department.
Right.
We have an intergovernmental agreement with Gwinnett County,
Mm-hmm.
and they provide law enforcement services to us through West Precinct. And because our budget doesn't have aspects of it that are going to, like, an actual officer, we sometimes are looking for ways that we can make Gwinnett PD even better, non-direct ways that we can make their job a little easier. And this was a way that we could have cameras installed at locations in the city that they chose. These are the 25 top, ranked locations in the city that Gwinnett PD feels like they could get the most value. And we put the cameras up. We give them access to the cameras, and they use it for either that real-time, capability, or they use it to, investigate the commission of a crime prior, and hopefully it helps
30,
solve the crime.
right, and 30 days prior, because it's only held for about 30 days, or is it 60 days?
No, it's 30. So the data is collected and it's stored in the cloud. And the only only organization that will access that data will be Gwinnett County PD. The city is not accessing the data at all. We have no interest in it. We don't want it. It's stored in there for 30 days, and 31 days the data drops off. So if your car, was at an intersection and it got a photo of it, 31 days later, that photo, that date, and all of that, it will be gone. So it's 30 days worth. Which is a decent. It's an industry accepted standard. Anything, if there's a crime, usually about it within 30 days, and beyond 30 days, it starts to get into a ridiculous cost of storing data that long.
Right, and this is stored and controlled by Gwinnett Police.
It's actually stored by the company. It's their cloud, almost like, say, Google is actually storing. If you have a Gmail account, they're actually storing your old, but you have access to it because of your account.
Right.
The company's storing it, but Gwinnett County PD is the only one that's going to access it.
And the company is in contract with the city.
That's correct.
You're just allowing access to the Gwinnett Police Department.
That's correct.
And the city is comfortable with security. As far as all, the digital information being secure in the cloud and stuff. I mean, obviously, I believe the city's done its due diligence on that, as far as how this company's storing the information and such.
Yes. I mean, again, like anything else, technically it is, in a position that somebody could hack it. But one, the company is a national company that has, cities that, the largest, some of the largest cities in the country, so it's not like we're inventing something new here,
Sure.
we're not. That's one. Two is, all of these cameras are oriented on public rights of way anyway. I mean, none of these
Okay.
cameras are taking a photo on any private property. These are at intersections of public roads. And so, the expectation of privacy in that regard is not, should not be held by anybody because, again, it's public. Three,
Correct.
we're limiting access to a police department through an agreement, and only for, again, only for criminal investigation purpose, or the prosecution of a criminal case, only for those purposes.
Okay.
And so we're limiting access to it. So, most hacking happens by people interfacing with something and they don't do it right. So when we limit it, they treat it where we felt very comfortable is they treat it the same as they would anything else, including like the state or national database on crime. Is any officer that accesses any of it has to sign in, so their fingerprint is on it. They have to state the purpose of why they're looking at that camera at that time.
Okay.
They have to.
Well, that makes sense.
So
It's like chain of custody, I guess.
that's
In case
correct.
it becomes evidence. So.
That's correct. Or somebody's abusing it. But again,
Right.
only law enforcement officers are going to be accessing this. And so, so all that being said, nothing's perfect and, guaranteed, but we feel pretty good. And again, Gwinnett, we're not even the first city that's done this. A lot of other ones are doing it. Gateway 85 CID, a lot of the CIDs use these. So we're able to tie into an existing network that it's interesting. If you looked when Gwinnett County pulled up the map of Gwinnett County to show us where all the cameras were, there was a very glaring hole in their network of cameras right here at Peachtree Corners, because they did not have any. The closest we had was the Gateway 85 corridor on Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
So they're very excited about being able to, potentially have cars coming into Gwinnett County from this area, because we border, two other counties
Right.
over here, Fulton and DeKalb. And so, there's a lot of traffic that doesn't originate in Gwinnett that they're going to have, an opportunity to help prosecute if need be.
So I guess the last question on it too is, there was a question of dollar amount per camera of the $2,500 per camera, but I think people don't understand really what that cost is. It's not the cost of the camera just itself. It encompasses a whole variety of things that is prorated per camera that is being installed into the system. So what exactly is that $2,500 or the cost per camera include?
All right, so the concept, so we're actually leasing these cameras. It's really a lease program. And really the cameras, it's almost like what you're doing is you're leasing access to data, because we're not going to own the camera. It's like the company puts the camera out, collects data, and it says, if you want access to this data, you've got to subscribe. A lot of people, it's very similar to streetlights. People think the city owns the streetlights. We actually do not. We lease the streetlights from Georgia Power, and we pay them essentially a monthly rate, just like we will on the cameras. Now, it comes to $2,500 a year per camera, but what we're getting for that, much like we get in the streetlights, is all of it, meaning there's no additional cost beyond that. So we didn't pay for the camera's cost up front. That's built into the monthly. It includes power. It includes data storage. It includes repair if a camera goes down. It includes upgrades. So it is a all-inclusive contract, much like our street lights, where if a street light goes out, we just call Georgia Power and they go out and fix it. We're not paying them extra for that repair. It's part of our lease terms with them. And so that's what we're doing here is we're leasing them, and that lease amount covers all of it.
And that makes sense. I mean, you have to decide whether you want to own and then manage it and then pay for the repairs and all that and everything. That it's like owning a police department. Do you want that? Or do you want to be able to just do what we're doing with Gwinnett Police and not have to have all the infrastructure and
Yep.
legalities of handling something
There's a
like that?
lot less overhead. That's exactly right.
Yeah, long term. Um, cool. So, and that's going to be all those cameras will probably be up by the end of the year. It sounds like you
Yep.
guys are almost done with the agreement next
Yep.
week or two. Cool. As far as what's been going on in the city council, it looks like the Governor's Lake um, has been postponed, that development until January. The developer asked for a deferment on it.
Yeah, just to table it for a couple, just, large, sites that require a lot of thought, especially in the pandemic environment where you don't have the ability to get large groups together like you used to when you were master planning, things. It just takes longer, and it doesn't help when sometimes people keep members of groups working through an issue come down with COVID and they're out for a while, and so
Sure.
and the holidays are coming up, so they just said let's just ask for a tabling till January to be safe, and they did, and council approved it.
And if most people don't know what that is, that's a request for zoning of 75 acres along Governor's Lake that would be turned into a mixed-use commercial residential development is what they're looking to do. And that's been around for a while now. I mean, was under a different owner, I think, before, looking to do the same thing, but that didn't happen. So it'll be back in January. As far as what was approved with conditions that I think most people should know about is a set of townhomes on Medlock Bridge Road. Actually, it's the property where the church is at. That's along the roundabout, right?
That's
there.
correct.
And so that church is being sold. That church property is being sold, actually, and it's going to be made into townhomes. You know, how many? That's only about 3 acres of land. How many
Right.
units?
It's about 40. It's 40 townhomes, 39 townhomes, somewhere around there.
Okay, and that's been approved, condition standard to what's been in the area already approved.
Yeah, I mean,
Similar to that.
when there are conditions, as you well know, are very specific to the site.
Right.
In this case, you have a subdivision, Bellhaven, that had a string of houses that border it. So
Mhm.
buffering and security fencing and those kind of things were part of the conditions to ensure that those people did not have this development encroach on them unnecessarily. There was some
Sure.
height considerations and conditions that were put in there, and parking considerations, and those kind of things. Tree safe plan. I mean, the topic of the conditions is usually similar. Is pretty similar, but this one is specific to the site. And
Yeah.
the developers met with the community a number of times, and they came to an agreement on the best thing. Not everybody got what they wanted, but it was good middle ground, and we're excited about is here's a piece of property that had a church that was looking to sell and move and downsize essentially.
Hmm.
And we've got a piece of property that's right there at the corner of the town center,
Yeah.
and provide more rooftops for people to be able to walk to the town center and shop, or the forum and shop and eat, which helps the health of the town center and the forum, which keeps that amenity as vibrant as we can possibly get it. So we're excited about that coming, because again, it's just more people right there in our entertainment area.
Cool. Okay. And then a couple of things have been pushed off for scheduled for public hearings in the summer. That includes the Atlanta Auto Sales that's looking to get a variance on their permit, and that's on Buford Highway. And then also there's a pet boarding and vet's office at 5075 Peachtree Parkway that's looking to get approved for their permits, for their approval as well. And that's going to be a public hearing December 15th at the City Council meeting.
Correct.
So there's that going on. Obviously there's a few other things out there. But I think those are the major items going on now. Anything that we should know about in the coming months that you guys have on the agenda to, informally on the agenda over the next 3 months that people should be thinking about?
I'm trying to look through my calendar here to see if there's anything that's really jumping out. No, not really. I mean, we're starting to, it's going to be a unique time. We're getting ready to enter the holiday season, which is always a little bit slower for local government as it relates to kind of like, more significant initiatives. There's not a lot of those over the holidays for obvious reasons. People's expectation, their focus is elsewhere. Our meeting schedule is off because of the holidays. And then you throw, a pandemic in there in general, not to mention, let's hope not, but, what appears to be another spike of some sort. And, right now I'm not really wanting to load council up. I'm keeping our agendas kind of light right now because, I don't know if I'm going to end up, having to close City Hall to the public or cancel some of the holiday activities at the town green. We've done a pretty good job so far of continuing to offer, activities out at the town green in a socially responsible way. But, that's been kind of over the time where, the numbers were looking a little bit better every day. And if it's, kind of changing, we may have to adjust that. But, so yeah, right now I think everybody should, concentrate on both, having a good holiday, but maybe a safe one. And, they certainly don't need the city to be involved in any kind of major initiative right now.
Yeah, for sure. And there's all sorts of other drama going on in people's lives. COVID, presidential politics, all sorts of things going on. So I do appreciate your time, Brian. Next month, we're likely not...
My pleasure, Rico. I mean, anytime.
Yeah, appreciate that. Everyone, thanks for listening. If you're listening to this on YouTube during the simulcast, if you got notice of it, great. Share it with your friends. Looking to get more subscribers on that channel. And if you're listening to it on Facebook, please, feel free to share it with your friends as well. We'll be back probably in January. I don't know if we'll be back in December with the Prime Lunchtime, but we'll see how it goes. Discussing what's going on in the city is always important. But I want to be, cognizant of aware of the holidays and respectful of people's times. Thank you, Brian, and thank you to Hargrave Fiber for being a lead sponsor of this podcast and the family podcast that we do. Thanks, everyone.